Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Speed Street Podcast. Another week of getting excited about IndyCar motor racing. We have an IndyCar race coming up this week and at the fantastic, very famous WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca, Monterey, California. Is it very early in the year? Yes. You're like, wait, I thought Laguna Seca was the season finale. I thought it was at the end of the year. Nope, it's right now. So very, very excited to be out there. I'm going to be out there for at least Saturday, Sunday. It was a crazy race last year. So we're gonna have a look at that. And as we promised, thanks to Willpower for joining us. We do still keep our record of 100%, except we haven't talked to Pato, technically. So we still haven't talked to Pato, who is a winner of a race, but he was a late winner. So we still have to interview Pato at some point. Maybe he'll win another race this season and we can kind of go 2 for 1. But yeah, we get to talk to Willpower in this episode. Great chat with Willpower. Really enjoy his honesty. I think you'll enjoy a little bit of a few technical nuggets, a few little technical nuggets, tech talk. We enjoyed that with Willpower. So yeah, and a lot of news to cover today. Big news to cover today. I have news myself that comes out as of the day of this podcast release. It is Tuesday. I am in Charlotte currently. I am doing seat fits in multiple different vehicles. Only 2 of which can be known about at the moment. But yeah, lots of news to discuss. We had the Le Mans 24-hour race happen over the weekend as well, which was a great race to watch. There was a lot of crazy rain and terrible weather for them, which sucked, but I really enjoy watching that event. That's highest on my bucket list. And some great NASCAR racing, too. I actually enjoyed NASCAR racing. Now, this isn't a NASCAR podcast. We're not allowed to talk about NASCAR because people get mad at it. But yeah, I like motor racing. So watch some good NASCAR racing at Iowa Speedway. I love Iowa Speedway. And I think the repave, everyone was a little bit nervous, but I thought the racing was great. So, Chase, how you feeling, sir? We've got our IndyCar race coming up, but some good NASCAR racing to watch over the weekend. And yeah, how are we doing?
Doing great, man. Like you said, I guess we don't talk about NASCAR. My backdrop probably does enough talking on this program. But yeah, definitely got to enjoy that race. Big shout out to the homie Ricky Stenhouse Jr. on that top 5. That was pretty awesome to see. And yeah, just had a great week. Definitely lonely without the IndyCar action. Excited for Laguna Seca coming up, even though definitely earlier than usual. So got some challenges to figure out who's going to take this thing down. A lot of differences I've learned in the past week, but I didn't get to watch much of Le Mans. I kind of followed on Twitter, followed along with that. I saw some comments made, and there's so much that I saw, like that's like these little things that kind of like slip between the cracks. So I'm ready to hear all about it, though. I know that you watched a ton of it. And I want to know how it went. And I definitely got to make sure that I make it a point to dial in all the way, kind of like I do for like Rolex every year. I always like to dial in for Rolex, so got to add a little bit of it.
I really enjoyed the fact that it was on HBO Max. It was on Max. I didn't know that the whole race was on Max. So you essentially
I had no idea it was on Max.
Yep. Yeah. So that was really cool. But I just enjoyed paying attention to some of our IndyCar guys out there. Obviously Scott Dixon, Alex Palou. You had Kiffin Simpson over there. You had Nolan Siegel. And obviously names that we knew in the past, of course, Sebastian Bourdais and Roman Grosjean as well. So a lot of names that you know, a lot of names that we are familiar with. But yeah, I think there's big news. So it's kind of awkward. The time that we are recording this show, we're recording in our normal time, and there is technically news. It is currently 1:52 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. And there is supposed to be an announcement at 3:00. So we're a little early. Now, I've done my research, got in the weeds a little bit, and know what this announcement is. And there's a lot of Twitter tweets that are going on, and people are saying big news incoming with an orange square. And I think
rumor mill is hot.
Huh?
The rumor mill is hot.
The rumor mill's hot. But we mentioned Le Mans, and there was a driver that won the Le Mans 24-hour race in the LMP2 class. And that young man is a friend of the show. That young man has been on the show, Nolan Siegel. Nolan Siegel is a 19-year-old Le Mans 24-hour race winner. Jack Harvey and I were watching that, and we were like, man, we missed out on the whole era of having this stuff happen really early for us. Tough. That's an amazing, great team. He's with Zach Brown's team. I don't know if you know where Zach Brown is involved, but Zach Brown is also involved at McLaren.
Yeah.
So Nolan Siegel is a winner, but the announcement that I believe that will be out by the time this episode is released is that Nolan Siegel is going to be a McLaren IndyCar driver.
Wow.
Now, because I don't know right now what that exactly means, I have not seen the release. I've only done some in the weeds research, trying to be ready for this show. And also my phone doesn't work currently where I am, so I'm trying to get live updates, but I don't really have any live updates.
You have Wi-Fi?
I have Wi-Fi on my laptop, but I wasn't able to get the password for my phone.
Oh, dang.
So that's tough. But I don't know exactly what this means, but Nolan Siegel to McLaren, is he replacing someone? We will know. I hope to find out literally in the next, as we go along this show. I might learn more information as we go here, because is Nolan going to mean a fourth car? I don't know. You'll probably see on the release. But before we talk to details, Nolan Siegel to McLaren, that would probably be the biggest news of this week. I'm also going to have some news myself, but that deal is very large. Nolan Siegel to McLaren, I don't necessarily... Now, winning Le Mans for Zach Brown's team, I think for sure was a big part of it, right? Big part of it. Zach Brown, I assume, is a guy who, appreciates when you win for him. He's a great sportsman. But I want to make, again, I love this for Nolan because, again, I believe that he is a good young driver. He's been great to interact with. I would say when it comes to going straight to the top in IndyCar with McLaren, I don't know. I would have thought maybe from a results standpoint, we're not there yet. He obviously did not make the 500. Probably no fault of his own. It was in a slower vehicle. But I'm definitely. I would say if you're looking at who else got drafted up to a big team, you had Linus Lundqvist, who is an Indy NXT champion. Okay, he went to Ganassi. He also showed really well in a drive for the Shank MSR, the MSR team. So Mike Shank Racing with Jim Myers and that group. So obviously, boom, that was our. Now we're going to sign. We're going to sign Linus for the Ganassi team. Now I have not seen that type of result yet for Nolan in IndyCar. Nor Indy NXT, obviously, not an Indy NXT champion. Obviously, he's probably not going to be doing many more of the Indy NXT races this year. So I guess, we have to look at other elements. Maybe there's a financial element, right? There was a lot of rumors this week about Arrow maybe going away from, the McLaren team. Obviously, Arrow's been involved a long time. Again, this is speculation. What we do as a podcast is I obviously don't know things for sure, but I can give you sort of information that would make sense because I know how this world works. There's a financial element to this world, right? We know that David Malukas obviously has a lot of support behind him, but he's a very good driver. And I believe Nolan Siegel is a very good driver. I would not say I've seen it to be driving at McLaren yet, but I think eventually, he's hopefully a driver that would get that chance. But if this is coming early, maybe there's a significant financial contribution, a sponsorship of some kind. Maybe there's a business deal that works out well there. I don't know, but you have to consider all factors, right? Because if you could have that type of business deal and a very good driver, which Nolan is, then it all makes sense. But I would just say that it's a little bit surprising for me, just overall. But I'm excited for him. As a 19-year-old who gets to sign with McLaren, that's a huge deal. So I'm happy for him because I think after the heartbreak that he went through at the Indy 500, he immediately goes and wins the Le Mans 24-hour race, which is awesome. Signs with McLaren, wild. So again, just kind of think of all the elements there. I'm happy for the young lad, but yeah, man, that's a big move.
I think what it really says about McLaren is that they are really committed to a development driver. They want a young guy in there to learn the ropes. They had Theo Pacher. Is that how you say it, by the way? Is it Theo?
Theo.
It's Theo?
Yeah, Theo.
I've heard people say Theo.
Theo, yeah. Maybe you're for like really European.
Yeah, I like Teddy Chairs.
I like Ted Chairs too.
Yeah, Ted Chairs. I think the thing with him is like that a lot of people could have thought easily like, okay, well, maybe he's going to do it. But you forget, like, he's over in Formula One. He's coming over to kind of do that. He's shaking it out. And so I think it's good that they're going in the direction they're going with these younger guys. And I think that a team like McLaren, that shows that they're looking to be in this series for a long time if they're going after these young guys like this. So they want to get these developmental drivers in there. And yeah, I mean, more power to them. I mean, you got to have practice to get better, right? You got to get these opportunities and go make the most of them. So he's got that on his shoulders to do, and we'll be rooting for all.
Yeah, and the rumor mill that I keep seeing as well. And again, this will all be out by the time this episode comes out. But I am literally about to do a seat fit in an ARCA car for a race at Mid Ohio on Friday. Which surprise, I'm making my ARCA debut on Friday. So that's my announcement. We'll get a little bit more to that in a second, but you will know more about this by the time this show airs. But from what I see, it sounds like they're going to run him in an extra car for the rest of the season. That's what a couple tweets that I have seen. And again, we might even put an update blurb after that comes out just to clarify for people. But if we don't, just pay attention to the internet, see what's going on. Yep. We're just trying to let you know, like, the overall, maybe the grand scheme of things. Rossi's in a contract year. Pato's obviously going to be there for forever, or as long as he wants to be. But, Theo Porcher, I'm not going to lie. Ted Chairs, he has been okay. But, like, if you're going to be aggressively firing people, like drivers have been fired for much less than Theo. I mean, he's been kind of hanging around, and is he going to get time to develop? I hope so. I think he's a good driver. I think in qualifying, he's shown some great speed. Road America, he was good. But like, he hasn't been on the podium yet. Like, that guy's not been in the top 6. Like, what are our standards for drivers before they get fired? I don't know. I mean, we've seen drivers get released this year. We've seen drivers all over the map over the last couple of years. We've seen one finish, and Linus Lundqvist is getting hired. But you look at the point standings right now too, and you've got Linus at the back, you've got Rasmussen at the back, you've got guys that Rinus VK 17th in points. Like, all these guys, like, if we're going off of some of the other people that have been fired, like, then let's get rid of a few more people, right? Because if we're that aggressive on results right now, not everyone's going to have their own opinion, but it's going to be wild. So I'm curious to see how that goes for McLaren the rest of the year. They certainly have the people and the cars to run 4 cars for the rest of the season. So I'm very curious to know why and how that develops. But what a turn of life for Nolan Siegel to be going from not making the 500 in a car that had no sponsors on it, had all kinds of different colored bodywork on it because he shunted it in the practice session. And he joined our podcast. We thank him for doing that. But yeah, what a wild change in life. The guy goes from, like, probably in the dumps to Le Mans 24-hour winner, McLaren IndyCar driver. Like, this life, racing is so absurd. Like, what can happen week to week
within a 48-hour period, honestly.
Yeah, but like, even myself, I've signed 2 contracts in the last 24 hours, which is kind of wild, and things have kind of developed a little bit. 3 contracts, actually. And my schedule certainly is a little bit busier. It's not as cool as being a McLaren driver. That's for darn sure. But yeah, let me just give a quick little. I'm going to be racing in the number 30 ARCA Menard Series car for Rhett Jones Racing, RJR. This is a very, very cool opportunity for me, and it's a road course. I love Mid Ohio. I got to race in the truck there last year with no power steering, and that probably could have gone way better than it did. But I get to go out there and race with Marco Andretti, my buddy Marco Andretti. He'll be out there as well. We're going to be, I believe it's Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 2, which, again, get used to Fox Sports 2 because we might have some IndyCar practice sessions out there on Fox Sports 2. So that'll be cool. It'll be a polka dot car. Again, polka dot is a part of this program, which is awesome. And and then I am in their shop currently right now because I'm about to do the seat fit in the ARCA car for the race on Friday. This all came together in the last couple days. And so now that means I will have gone through the full NASCAR spectrum of series. I will now have done Cup, Xfinity, Truck, and ARCA. So definitely just wanted to make sure we cap that off, which is kind of
graduation right there.
Yep. And got some other very exciting stuff that's coming as well. We have not made. I've mentioned several times our truck deal that we're doing. That is hopefully soon to be announced on the details of that, and then maybe another little thing that we're going to announce as well. So there's going to be a lot of excitement coming up over the next couple weeks for me. Thankfully, also did the seat fit in the Vandals Racing BMW GT3 car. So we announced that. People probably won't remember this, but we announced that in like February that I was going to do a couple SRO GT3 races with Random Vandals Racing and the BMW. So did the seat fit for that while I was here with my buddy Connor DeFilippi and Ken Cook. So I'll be in a test day for that in July for the first time. So a lot going on, a lot of exciting things. So that's the announcement on my side for those that care about what I do. But yeah, what a week, huh? What a crazy thing. We've got also, we're going to preview Laguna Seca. Obviously there's a lot going on there, but, big news that I posted a YouTube video about the IndyCar TV deal with Fox. And we'll get to that, but we also got to notice that, Canapino is back in the 78 car as well. We can't forget that. Obviously he disappeared and then now he's back for the rest of the season, they said. So whatever was going on there, they must have sorted out. As of Monday after Road America, I was literally calling Ricardo Juncos. I was in communication potentially with their team, and then they announced it that afternoon, and so I obviously never got a call back. So I was trying to do some research and at least find out what was going on. Didn't hear from anyone. And then I saw the announcement. And I was like, oh, that's probably why. So honestly, I'm happy that Canapino gets to finish out the season. I do believe he's been very nice to me, and that's all I can go off of. And I think he's deserves to finish out his season for sure. I think he's done a good job in that car. And I like that team a lot. It's a good group of people. So let's not forget that. We had an IndyCar test happen at Milwaukee. We had an IndyCar test happen at Nashville, the super speedway, which I think was really interesting. Heard about some stuff there. I think that could be a very exciting race, according to some of the driver comments. I know Firestone was testing a lot of different tire options there for everyone. So I think that'll be good for them to get a hold of and for them to be able to bring the most competitive package to the race, as will the series with their aerodynamics rules. We don't know what aero rules they're going to be running. But we got ratings from Motor America, which were not that exciting, but let's just keep on pushing. We had a wild rating over the weekend from USA Network at Iowa for NASCAR, so it is possible for over 2 million people to watch a race on USA Network. We got to remember that. We got to remember that with the right marketing, with the big fan base like NASCAR has, you can get over 2 million people to watch a NASCAR race on USA Network. So we're on USA this weekend, so we got to push hard for getting the ratings there. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about real quick, Chase. I know you talked a lot about the Fox deal for IndyCar.
Yeah, and
I don't want to get too deep into it because I did put a video out, but I think that there's for those that didn't see or listen or even care to read the release, well, you're probably not listening to this podcast anyway. But if you are,
welcome. Hi.
Let's just list out the benefits and I went through a ton of YouTube comments, but every race on the same channel, good, big, good. That's very great for our series. So Network Fox, that's not a Fox channel that's on some weird cable package that you don't have. You could have rabbit ears on your television. You will get Fox. So that's big. The Super Bowl is on Fox. The Daytona 500 is on Fox. All big events. I don't know if you've heard of them, but very big. So this is good. I believe Fox will probably use their NASCAR races at the beginning of the season to help promote the IndyCar stuff. I do believe that. I think that's very exciting for us. There is a streaming option. Everyone all of a sudden is like, oh my gosh, I'm losing my Peacock service. How is that possible? But you got to remember, the Peacock audience, I'm sorry, if that is way too small for it to matter right now. Like that's like, I apologize for the folks that just watch on Peacock, but there is less than 100,000 of you total. Like, so, we got to go with the big number there. And there are millions of people watching races on Fox on the NASCAR side. So, there is going to be a streaming option. We don't want anyone to be left out. Venue Sports, I believe, is going to be combining ESPN properties, Fox properties. So you'll be able to watch F1, IndyCar, and NASCAR all across the same streaming option. And that will be really cool. So pay attention to what that price point will be, what that will be for other sports packages. Maybe do some reallocation. Maybe say, hey, all right, I'm not paying for Peacock anymore, so I'm going to save some money and I'm going to reinvest here. And maybe if I had an ESPN Plus, then maybe I don't need that now because I have it on Venue Sports. I don't know. So have a look at it. I think it's very exciting for our sport. I really do. The one thing I don't like, which I said in my video, but I don't like this. I don't like that the schedule ends in August. I think that's very aggressive. Still only 17 races, which thermal being a points race. I again, okay, that's fine. But we didn't add anything. So that I still don't understand. That one hurts on the inside because I want to see our series grow. But what do you think overall, Chase, of the Fox deal? I think this is a positive thing. People getting angry at it. I think eventually, after I read through a lot of the comments, there were a lot of people that were happy about it. So that's good.
No, I think this is a great first step. Regardless of what everybody says about, NASCAR on Fox, there's always been, a lot of comments and negative comments about the broadcasting and their team and whatnot. But I look at it this way. When you have a long-term relationship with another series and that ends up breaking off and they have an opportunity now with a brand new product, they're going to go all out and they're going to be like, hey, you talked all this and all the fans didn't really like the way we did these things. Now we're going to take all those things. We're going to apply them, but we're going to do it with a brand new series. I think that this move is the kind of what we've been talking about all season, Connor, is we're in the beginning of a resurgence in the series. And I firmly believe that. And this is just another piece to solidify that statement because Fox carries not only, that you can go to Walmart or Target, whatever, and get a little bunny ears for your TV now. So if you had streaming service, if you got a TV in your house, plug a little $12 antenna in the back of it, you've got a race. So that's there. They have a bunch of apps with like local TV antenna stuff. They can pick up those local channels, like 5 or 6 channels. You can get that for free. So that's huge. And then aside from that, the fact that they're a crossover. And I talked about that. We talked about that on a podcast in the back on the 4 Minutes of Fun. I kind of talked about that, about how you could see IndyCar drivers appearing on other shows on the network with Fox now. That helps with the pop culture, right? You got to get these drivers, their personalities out there, the pop culture effect. That's all blending in to make a good stew, gumbo, whatever you want to call it. That's going to help. Now, the schedule shortening is definitely, I'm with you on that. Like, you don't ever want to see that. However, I haven't looked at the dates close enough. Do we have, are there giant gaps between these races, or did that shortening help to shrink those gaps?
Well, because, I mean, the schedule, there's definitely still a gap between the first couple races. There's obviously plenty of open weekends between St. Pete and Long Beach and stuff like that. So there are gaps. Yeah, absolutely. There's still several weeks between the first few races. And I'll tell you exactly what it is right now.
Right. And while you're looking that up, I mean, I just say, like, I think that shortening the schedule, as long as you can find a way to make more of a consistency, like we've talked about, we had Junior on here talking about that too, like that consistency of every Sunday coming out, kind of like NASCAR does. I think that right there, a lot of the time helps. Yeah. It helps because people know, they know, hey, it's Sunday. This race is going to be on today.
Yeah. So I think, So the real there's 21 days between St. Pete and the Thermal Club. So that's 3 weeks. That's a big time gap. And then there is, you go from March 23rd, the Thermal Club, to April 13th, Long Beach. So there's also April 13th, and then the next race is until May 4th. So there's definitely a couple big gaps there, which I wish could be filled in. But the thing is once our series picks up steam, you've got something like 14 of the final 18 weekends in a row, which is kind of crazy for our guys that are on the road, guys and girls that are on the road. But boy, you'll definitely not have a ton of time to wait for an IndyCar race once we get through May into June. In July alone, you have 5 races in July. So that's a ton. That's a lot of consistency.
Huge.
Yeah.
So shortening up, as long as that exists within a shorter, tighter pack schedule, I think that is just a great testing point, right? Like that's a point that networks can look and say, okay, how are we doing now that we're here? Because we all know that when the Indy 500 starts, kind of like Daytona 500 is the big one for NASCAR.
Yeah.
The Indy 500 is that race where everyone's watching, and then you want to have a good, strong following through that.
Exactly.
So there is opportunity for that.
Yes, and so I think one thing that we have to be excited about too is that, like, let's say you have a cable TV package, right? Like if you didn't have any streaming, but you had like a cable TV package, like you're going to get FS1, right? So now you have to realize that we're still going to get more people that watch practice and qualifying as well now too.
100%.
Because
and Indy next.
The folks that only watch Peacock, that's a very small number, and it's even smaller for practice and qualifying. Those are our diehard fans, and we appreciate those people.
I'll stand with them. I watch Peacock.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I watch practice and qualifying on Peacock, but there are still more people that have cable. There are still more people that have FS1. If you go to any hotel room, you have FS1 almost. Any hotel room you go to in the country, you probably have FS1, right? So all these things, but you can't say the same thing about Peacock, right? So that there's a lot more chance for people to see, an IndyCar practice session or qualifying session, whatever. Okay, cool. And then an Indy NXT. So when Indy NXT is either on FS1 or FS2, like I have FS1 and FS2, but I want everything. I want all the sports channels I can get, and I will pay for it for sure. But even those who might not have seen Indy NXT before, this is a great opportunity for even those drivers to maybe sell sponsorship, right? Because NASCAR Xfinity teams, NASCAR truck teams, like they are able to sell sponsorship because of a TV package, and a lot of those TV packages are on FS1, right? Or a lot of the stuff was on FS1. Even ARCA, is on FS1, FS2. So stuff like that, that's marketable. That is sellable. You can sell that to partners. Whereas like if it's just on Peacock, that's a smaller number still. Like I appreciate those folks that are on Peacock. We appreciate those people. I'm a Peacock subscriber myself, and we appreciate everything NBC's done. Like it's amazing. But this for sure does seem to be, it is our best option. I believe we have to get behind it, and obviously you have to, or else if you don't want to watch it anymore, then I guess that's your choice. It seems a bit silly. But
I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, but I think that we still need 20 races, as I've said many times before on this show. I want 20 races. We need more ovals. We need more races in general, and I really hope we do get those. But let's just see how year one with Fox goes, right? Let's see how year one goes.
One more question I wanted to ask you because I haven't got to talk to you about it yet.
Yeah.
From a broadcasting standpoint, I mean, who do you realistically see being in the booth with this Fox crew now? Like, do you think that we're going to get some of our guys? Like, I know a lot of people have been like, man, it'd be so nice to see Hinch come over and do that. I mean, even though he's with NBC, and I know we have Lee Diffie's going to NASCAR. So it's like, where in your mind, like you're there, you're in that action kind of like, have you heard anything? Have you, who do you suspect to be that voice for Fox?
Well, all we can really do is speculate, but I would say it's entirely possible for them to go get Hinch. I don't see any reason why, unless and again, I don't know his NBC contract. I'm sure we could talk to him about it, but I know they can't get Lee Diffie because Lee Diffie's probably locked in at NBC for a long time because he does their Olympic stuff. He does all kinds of stuff for NBC. But I could see for sure Hinch or maybe Townsend getting the invite back. I do see that. One voice that I think would be really good, Alan Bestwick. I've already asked Alan Bestwick. I was like, hey man, they should be offering you that, right? Like I think Alan Bestwick is very good. I like him a lot. I got to work with him on the SRX stuff, so I think Alan Bestwick would be a good name. But other than that, I don't know. Do they? I do hope that they get an IndyCar, a good IndyCar voice who knows the technical side, who knows a few things. I could see Jamie Little absolutely being a part of it somehow. Jamie Little, very into IndyCar. She knows IndyCar. Her husband was on my pit crew, or on Ryan Hunter-Reay's pit crew, at the Indy 500. So, there's a lot of good connection there. Jamie obviously is based in Indiana too, so she knows the IndyCar world. She does a great job for Fox as well on the ARCA broadcasts, on the pit reporting for NASCAR as well for the Cup Series. So I think that's someone for sure who should be looked at. A very well respected name all across the motorsport landscape. But yeah, maybe they'll surprise us too. I don't know. Maybe they'll surprise. Maybe they'll bring Paul Page back. I don't know. That'd be sweet to bring Paul Page in. I like that. Maybe they'll hit up Derek Daly. I don't know. With Derek Daly, bring Derek Daly out of retirement. Who knows?
They're gonna have like, I definitely know the comic relief there. Like Hinch could definitely provide that, but they're gonna have a good.
Hinch is good. I like Hinch a lot. I think he's very good at the broadcast.
He is. He had a great segment where he called Colton in the car on his cell phone, in the middle of practice with 500. It was just on the broadcast. So that's great. But yeah, I'm very interested to see who IndyCar's Larry Mack will be. That's
I don't know.
Commentating.
I mean, there's a lot of options out there. So and people have asked, would I do it? No, not yet. I want to do commentary eventually in my life, but I am really trying to be a race car driver still. There's a lot that I want to do in this world. There's a lot we're doing with Polka Dot that I think is really exciting, and hope to have them obviously as a partner into next year as well. And we maybe expand that partnership. I don't know what that's going to look like, though. I think the IndyCar driver landscape is going to be very difficult to find myself a good opportunity in. Yes. Could I find myself an opportunity? Yes. But do I want to pound around at the back? Absolutely not. I really do not.
Right.
So this is interesting. I did just get, this is a live update. So live update before the McLaren announcement. Wow, that's wild. So apparently Nolan Siegel is taking the 6 car for the rest of the season. Okay. So Teddy Cheers was already fired. Jeez,
Teddy's going back to F2.
Oh my gosh. So that means they've had 3 different driver contracts in the 6. That's crazy. Multi-year deal for this year, all of 2025 and beyond. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, like, I guess technically Teddy Cheers could be fired because he didn't win in his first 3 races. Like, dude, this is a crazy era of IndyCar. I don't know what is going on here. I've kind of...
It's a wild time to be a fan of IndyCar, man. I'm telling people all the time, this is it's brewing.
But I also don't think that's... Now I feel bad for Ted Cheers, like, because I think Teddy showed a lot of speed.
But what was?
And again, we don't know. Let's make sure that we let people know that we are only live reacting to this, because there might be more information to this that we don't know about. But we can only live react to what we have. But apparently, according to the information source, Theo is done with McLaren.
Yeah,
I completely disagree with that. I don't understand, because what has Nolan done? Now, again, this is mean to say. It's not mean to say, but like, this is the question you have to ask as fans, as supporters of this series. And again, I could say the same thing about myself sometimes, like, oh, what has he done? Maybe there's more going on behind the scenes, because for me, there is more behind the scenes that I think would be fine. I'm obviously not in the running for that seat at all. Completely understand that. But what has Nolan done right now that you would say is better? Theo Pourchaire is the F2 Formula 2 champion. That's pretty good. Theo Pourchaire got in and is had some decent runs and has qualified well and has been fast. So this is one that is going to have to be explained to me in a different sense. And again, maybe I think something maybe there's money involved. Maybe there's money. And money is the power of everything in motorsport. So money overpowers everything. But again, I'm not trying to say anything bad about Nolan Siegel, because I think Nolan is a great kid. I think he's a great kid. I think he's got a very bright future. He's the nicest young fella out there. He works with some great people. But I guess I'm just, what's going to be hard for him is now, maybe, unless this contract actually survives its length, because Theo Pourchaire obviously had a contract towards the end of the season. That now disappears. So contracts apparently aren't real anymore, which is wild. So let's see what happens. I think he's got a lot of pressure on him. I think he's got to have pressure to do well, unless his dad now owns a part of McLaren. I don't know.
Well, I think that the one question I would be asking here that's away from, money or anything like that is, what were Ted's goals? And when you look at McLaren, you look at Nolan Siegel, like Nolan's made it pretty clear, like he's rolling in IndyCar. He wants to roll in IndyCar. He wants to make a career in IndyCar. Do you think, and because I could see this being a thing where it's like you have to do a risk assessment, right? Like, we all know Teddy Chair's F2 champion. Does he want to pursue that? Does he want to pursue Formula? Is that where he wants to be? Does he want to pursue, IndyCar at the same rate that maybe Nolan does? And you have to ask yourself that maybe as an owner, like, okay, the moment we have this driver, the moment that he calls, we're trying to put together a championship team, a good long-term foundational team. Is he going to go back to overseas, or is he going to stay here in IndyCar? Yeah. I think that could be a reason right there.
That's wild. Well, so now we're seeing the news. That's kind of crazy. I myself have a passion for this sport, and I love seeing young drivers get a chance. I think I think we're in a very volatile era for young drivers right now. The one thing I keep going back to is, like, if we're judging all these young guys or these drivers after a few races, you would have never got Joseph Newgarden. Joseph Newgarden would have been fired after year one and never come back. Joseph Newgarden had 3 years to develop, and he's two-time Indy 500 champion, multi-time champion, everything. Everything's good. So I think we have to always kind of go back to that. I think there are several other drivers who have developed really well over time. I think we see Jamie Chadwick after year one of Indy NXT, boom. Year two of Indy NXT, boom. Here we are, win races. So, like, it takes time. It takes a little bit of time for drivers to develop. But we're in a wild era, and that's all I can say. I don't really want to say much else about it, because I don't know what to say. It makes me kind of just feel like I feel bad for Theo. I feel bad for David Malukas, but now David Malukas is back. Does Theo Porcher end up in a coin seat? I don't know. I don't know. Is he done with IndyCar? I don't know. So there's just a lot going on here, a lot to talk about. But we have a race this weekend to check out. I'm gonna probably wrap up this show here pretty quickly, because I have to do a seat fit. But let's talk about this race this weekend. It's 6 p.m. Eastern on USA Network, everyone. Don't forget USA Network. Also, season 2 of 100 Days to Indy is on Netflix right now. So go watch us on Netflix, where it's going to be sweet. USA Network, we're going to make some top 3 predictions when we get back from this Will Power interview. So let's get to Will Power, our winner from Road America. And after that, we will give you the random Indy 500 driver of the week and a little preview, a little Laguna Seca WeatherTech Raceway preview. So here's Will Power. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is 1 week delayed, but that is because this man is a hardworking individual. He is a race winner this year now. He is a many time race winner in the NTT IndyCar Series. He is really just a legendary person. He's one of the best qualifiers that I think exists on this planet of humans. The driver of the number 12 Verizon machine at Penske, Team Penske for Chevrolet, Will Power. Will Power, you are a winner. We expected to honestly have you on this show as a winner probably sooner, but here we are. We're only in June. So congratulations. How are we feeling? Still feeling good? Everything, the vibes are high right now. We're back in the championship fight. We're locked in. Yeah, feeling good. Kind of been knocking on the door all year. A few second places. So it was a matter of time. Definitely the team have produced some very good cars. Chevy's got great engines right now. So, riding the game and with a great chance to fight for the championship all the way to the end. So, feeling good. I love it. So let's talk a little bit about the win. A lot went on that weekend. Rain. You had Saturday was a complete weather disaster. Were you guys just as confident in the wet as you were when you came to the dry, or was that a bit of a question mark? How did you guys feel on that qualifying day in the difficult conditions?
Actually, I felt a little bit more confident in the wet than I did in the dry.
Oh, nice.
But I was looking forward to the dry. I made some good adjustments overnight, but it really wasn't apparent to me how good we were in the dry till the race, till it sort of all cycled out and we're 1, 2, 3, and I'm like, okay, and we just, I could see Palou, the gap behind just open up, so I was like, we got the best cars today. But yeah, in the wet, I enjoy the wet a lot, so I was looking forward to a fully wet session, but then it was wet and drying. So it's always a tough condition, that one. It's a tough condition, but, you've got to absolutely make the most of every single lap as it changes and pick your time correctly for when you're going to put on your set of new wets for one lap, literally, because then they melt it off.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very interesting to see. I enjoy watching a good wet session. I love the wet as well, but to see you guys and to see everyone have to work through that, I think is really fascinating. And to see whose cars are better at what time is really interesting as well. Obviously, Ganassi ended up on pole, and Colton was very fast. But
yeah,
when it came to turn one, when you're looking at turn one and you see the activities that took place in turn one,
yeah,
with Joseph hitting Colton, with Marcus Armstrong hitting Linus, I mean, what were you thinking at that point? Did you have a great view of that? Did you think oh my gosh, this is I can't believe this just happened? You don't often see the pole sitter get taken out by his teammate row 2. Usually the chaos happens probably mid pack. But what did you think when you saw that went on?
Yeah, I saw. Obviously didn't see how it happened, but I saw a lot of smoke and multiple cars sort of spinning and so on, and I just missed Linus. And yeah, that was somewhat I knew there were two young guys at the front. I'm like, okay, something happened here. They were battling for, to have the lead out of turn one. And, so that was, this crazy actually, because that is 3 races in a row where turn one there's been a crash, 3 races in a row. A lot of yellows this year, a lot of aggressive driving, a lot of it's interesting that's been the case. So you'd have to say that we're probably going to get through lap 1 at Laguna without a yellow. We should. There's just been so many. Yeah.
Why is that though? Do you think this year? We've heard you on the radio talk about the stewardship. We've seen some steward comments, and I love your radio messages, but. Is it just because of how difficult it has become to overtake cars at certain tracks? Has it become because I also see at Indy, on the restarts at the 500, people are willing to literally crash to potentially make a move. And I would say sometimes in the last 10 years, there's been times where you're like, hey, all right, we're going to get through this restart. We're going to be able to make the moves when we can.
Yeah.
But is there a higher level of aggression this year, or is that aggression just pure stupidity sometimes? I don't know. What do you think is the difference right now in the way our racing has kind of become?
I think it's the level of competition and how difficult it is to actually get a top 10. A top 10 really matters now. That's actually good points. If you can be really finishing almost in the first half of the field that's a good deal if you are a rookie or you are driving for a team that's not Penske, Ganassi, or Andretti, or McLaren. If you're one of those other teams that don't have the massive budgets, you're fighting for those sort of top 10 positions. So it's tough. There's not a bad driver in the field. They're all good. So it is hard to get positions. It's not because it's hard to pass. It's because the level is so high. Everyone's executing and everyone's fast. So, I've pushed IndyCar to have a no-reply push-to-pass system, which would calm some of that down because, if you're faster, you're going to have a shot at someone. If you can get within a second, you'll have a shot, and then they'll have a shot too. If they make an adjustment in the pit stop or whatever. But
explain that a little bit more, though, just for the fans. Explain what that idea would be. You said a no-reply?
Basically, right now, when you hit, you get 200 seconds of push to pass at 60 horsepower. Yep. So when you hit the button, or or you look behind and you see someone's going to run, you're going to hit the button, and so are they. So it almost cancels itself out. And I always thought that's, what a waste. Like, we would have a lot more passing at some of these tracks if you had a lockout system, which they did try in Indy Lights and Indy Next. If you get within a second of someone, it locks theirs out. They can't use it. So if you're behind, you catch up, boom, you're within a second because you've got all these timing lines that are connected to the car, so they can do this. It locks them out, so you can get a run and you can pass them, and you can almost tune the amount of horsepower for the push to pass to make it not like DRS where you just blow by them. Like, it's still a hard pass to make, but there's more passing. I've pushed them for that. And I thought the best time they could have tried that was at thermal. Push to pass in qualifying is a complete waste of time, in my opinion. What does that do? Yeah. Does nothing. Zero. Like, it's not a thing. It's if you want 1 lap qualifying, we'll have 1 lap qualifying, but that's what it came down to. You've got enough for 1 lap, so everyone does 1 lap. But now push to pass, that would be very interesting. That could make the racing a lot better at some of these short circuits, and we do a lot of short circuits. Do a lot of tracks that have short straights, and it would create some good racing.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting, and I think I do think that sometimes we need to look at that system again, because I think we have a lot of great racing. There's a lot of stuff that has gone on this year that I think has been, again, maybe overly aggressive, we'll say.
Yes, I agree.
But I think we've seen maybe more penalties now for some of the dumber stuff that's been done, and I do believe that if there's no penalty and there's no, if there's no, like, basically wrongdoing, like, if there's no penalty for that, right, then you're just going to keep doing it. So if they penalize it more and more, you have to be consistent with it. I agree. Like, there definitely has to be the consistency. But yeah, I feel like sometimes maybe if there's a bigger penalty, people won't do that. I don't know. Maybe you think that there's that's they're going the right way.
Yeah, I mean, the size of the penalty really matters. If you you make a move or push someone wide and you only have to give the position up, you're going to be willing to do that every time. Like, why not? Like, I'm not going to, either I'll pull it off and it'll happen. Otherwise, I'm just giving it back up anyway. So a stronger penalty would make a difference. Is that, putting you back 5 cars or 6? What is it? A drive-through's tough. That's a race ruiner right there. But if you were doing that, then people would be less reluctant. Would be more reluctant to do it. Sorry, it's a tough balance because you don't want to ruin the great racing we have. It is a tough series. It's very aggressive. People that come in, new drivers that come in generally get pushed around pretty quickly. You take advantage of, what they thought was normal from Europe or wherever they come from, But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the drive-through penalties it's a tough balance. Maybe giving up positions, maybe giving up multiple positions will be a nice deterrent for some of the aggressive driving.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea for sure. So let's go to how this race plays out. Right, Scott McLaughlin, your teammate, big gap at the beginning, and I think everyone was kind of waiting to see how the Reds were going to last, because a lot of people, from what I heard, some people really struggled making the Reds work. Some people, like Scott Dixon in the middle of the race, literally looked like he dropped a boat anchor out the back of his car, and he dropped like a rock on the Reds. Were you guys trying to, like, not worried about Scott pulling away a lot? You guys were kind of comfortable with your strategy, or when you got on the Reds, were you a little bit concerned with how everything was going?
The Reds were all about the first lap. If you pushed them on the first lap when the carcass was cold, then you would get that. I guess you get the separation of the gauge rubber, and you start getting blisters. I'm not sure the exact science, but that's what I think happens. So if you could bring them up to temperature over 2 or 3 laps nicely without sliding them much, putting a lot of energy into them on those long loading corners, you weren't going to get the blisters. And that, I was aware of that. So I was very gentle as I could be, as fast as I could be whilst doing that, not slipping it. And I knew after that you're fine. You could do a full stint on them, push them pretty hard. But I during my red run, I sat back and saved tires for the overcut because I knew that was my only game. Scott was told the same thing when he went out. He was very cautious because I'm sure that the team had told him what happened to Dixon. But I actually thought when Palou overcut Dixon and Dixon was on reds, I thought this will be interesting because I don't think he knows about the blistering because it had happened to me on a qualifying run the day before. Like, we did the reds. I did 1 lap, they were on straight away, and by the second lap they were done. I was like, okay, you cannot push these without getting some carcass temp. And I actually thought that I said at the beginning before the race in strategy meeting, there are going to be some guys that actually have to make another pit stop because like when they blister like that, you cannot keep going. They're so bad, they're so slow, you have to make another pit stop, and that's what happened. None of our cars struggled on the reds. We all, Joseph started on them. There's a lot of yellows, so they all brought up the temperature nicely, and then we had a big enough gap with Scott and myself to bring them in nicely. Although Scott lost a position, probably been a little too conservative. He probably could have kept Joseph behind. But the other side of that is him making another stop and finishing way down the order, so I understand why he would be, very, very careful.
I think that's really interesting what you say about bringing the tires in, because I think our fans, like, they love to know a little bit of those details on, like, hey, why did this work for one person and why did it not work for the other? And that is great information to say. It's like, it is all about how you bring in a tire. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If you nail it the right way, then you're going to be rewarded in the long run. So I'm really glad you said that. I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
And then for the overcut, that seemed to be paying off. Like, a lot of people talk about undercut, but the overcut at Road America seemed to be a really dominant way to do it. Had you guys planned that before the day even started? Was that going to be an evident thing for you, or was that as the race went, you're like, hey, I think we can just kind of go longer?
No, I knew just because of it's a very long lap and weight matters a lot there.
Yes.
I think it's, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a tenth per, what do you gain a tenth just in weight every lap? But yeah, the fact is, warm tires, light car at the end, and there's not really any deg there. So the overcut just kills it. Out lap, cold tires, heavy car, like the cold tire penalty is big. It's 3 seconds. So 3 or 4, you saw what I was able to do just from Scott. That's 2 laps on those reds that had been kept very good, had to, push really hard for 2 laps at the end of my stint. Like, that was 5 seconds or so, I think, to Scott, 5 or 6, and then, another 3 or 4 to Joseph. Like, that gap, that showed what light car, warm tires versus heavy car, and mind you, warm red tires versus heavy car, cold black tires, which the hard compound is, the outlap is much more difficult. So, yeah, big gain there, simply because there's no deg. And especially at the end of the race when the track is rubbered in and the deg is even less. So last stop, that isn't always the case, because what happens sometimes is the undercut can work when a bunch of people fight on the overcut on the outlap while you get a lap of push, or a couple of laps of push to pass and pushing hard. Like, when they're battling, that can change. The undercut can work, but rarely in that situation.
Yeah. No, that you pretty much laid that out perfectly. I appreciate that. Chase, I'm going to let you get in here with Will.
Yeah, Will, congrats again on the win, man. I wanted to kind of change to some of the more recent news. So obviously Fox coming to IndyCar has been the talk of the town. You've been in the series for a long time. And I just want to know, we talk about the aggressive driving that's coming out of the series this season. Fox definitely has a reputation of being able to get their motorsport series talked about, their coverage, things like that. Do you anticipate that aggression is going to continue kind of in a development of more personality with more of the entertainment side of things coming into 2025? Or how do you really see this Fox coverage taking IndyCar to a new place?
Well, yeah, to start with, it's all on network, so it's easy to find. I think that was a big key for us right now. So, yeah, I think that was probably the first box they needed to tick. The DNA of IndyCar racing in the last more than a decade has been very aggressive racing and good racing where anyone can win. So that's also good for Fox. I mean, the entertainment value of IndyCar for me, I don't see another series in the world that has that entertainment value, that has that excitement, that unpredictability of who's going to win. We've just got to get it out there. And I think they've got to work out some of the streaming stuff because, that's for the younger audience, which is very key for us. I think that's where Formula One has done so well, which honestly pretty much comes down to just what they did with Netflix and Drive to Survive. But we got the TV show. It is on Netflix. We're doing all the right stuff. Obviously, we always want more and want more money in marketing, but it's a slow process. And it's heading in the right direction. I have to say, watching the last 15 years that I've been here, it is in such a better place than where it was. The quality of the teams, the continuity of drivers, the level of the drivers. I think the next thing is the venues we go to have got to improve, got to slowly, go to great venues. Like to me, it was a big hit not to have Nashville on the streets. I think downtown Nashville would have been massive for us, but I hope that works out at some point in the next few years for IndyCar. But good stuff is happening.
Yeah,
I agree.
Absolutely. And two, I mean, just the fact of the possibility with your relationship with Flava Flav, I mean, I could see him in a fire suit with a microphone on pit road. I think that would really turn the heat up. That would certainly be interesting if you put Flava Flav in a fire suit as a pit reporter. I don't know, man. Yeah. How did that relationship start, by the way?
That was in Detroit. I was a big fan of Public Enemy when I was growing up. Yeah. And I heard he was at the track, and I said, I have to meet this guy. And it's nuts. We just hit it off, man. Like, we are good friends now. We're going to go on vacation together. We're going to come to Nashville. We are actually good friends. It's crazy that we are quite similar. Like, we're quite similar. It's crazy to think that. Obviously he's pretty, let's say, I'm more shy than he is. Like, the best part of the whole thing was when he got on that bus going down to the parade on Saturday before the Indy 500. All the drivers get on a bus. There's like 3 buses, so the drivers are split up into the groups, and he thought that was my entourage. He thought everyone on that bus was for me, and Flavor was on the bus. And he got up the front and started saying, everyone yell, Will. I'm going to yell, Will, you yell power. So he had them all chanting my name, saying, Will Power's going to win, this sort of stuff. And then he realized, like, hey, these are other drivers now. Like, like he was like, felt bad. Like, I thought that was I thought this was your entourage. I thought this was your family. I was like, no,
boys,
these are other competition. Like, That's why he was like, "Come on, you guys can do better than that," because none of them wanted to yell out their competition's name. Like,
obviously.
that was a very
such a
funny
instance
instance.
to do. I feel like it's just that dynamic between you two is incredible. And yeah, it just honestly, every time I see him at a track now with you, like, I'm just like, when is Will gonna wear a clock around his neck? And
Yeah, you gotta you gotta earn the clock. Like, he does not give out the clocks easily. Like, there's only a couple of people that seem to have got the clock. So
I took a selfie with you guys walking to the buses, but you guys didn't realize it. I took like 3 photographs while I was walking in front of you guys.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a great picture, yeah, but you definitely, neither of you had any idea, but I was smiling like I took a picture with you guys.
You should have chanted his name, Connor, and then they would have got into it.
Yeah. It's funny. Like, that's what all the people I grew up with, people I went to school with said, dude, you've made it. Like, don't forget about all the racy stuff. Like, you may as well just give up. Like, you're hanging out with Flavor Flav.
You go on vacation with Flavor Flav now.
Because a lot of young guys don't know who he is, but if you were sort of a teenager in the 90s like me, like, that's a big deal. Public Enemy, man.
I love that.
Yeah.
I was a young kid. I remember his MTV show, the Flavor Flav's Love.
Oh, yeah, like, Flavor of Love, yeah. Well, I guess, that was later, yeah. So a lot of people would remember him from that.
It's so funny, man. I love it. I love it. That's a great story. It's a great relationship. I love that you guys are going on vacation, dude. That's one of my favorite things that I've heard this week. Let's look ahead. Let's go to Laguna Seca, right? We're going to WeatherTech Raceway. Obviously, that race last year was, I would say, the definition of chaos for the most part. Do you see this? Obviously, completely different time of year now that it's happening. We're right in the middle of the summer. Feeling good about this weekend. Obviously, we've got, is it going to be as crazy as it was last year? What do you think?
I think you could about halve the yellows last year because of the fact that you cannot pass until you're out of that last corner. If you think about the amount of yellows that came from people passing into the last corner when it went green. Like, in our series, you go full throttle. As soon as the leader is full throttle, which is usually before the last corner, it's green. And the rule was last year you could pass as soon as someone was full throttle. So, people took big advantage of that, like, overlapping almost before it was green. So, yeah, I saw it fall wide into that last corner last year multiple times in those restarts. Yeah. So that was some of it. It's very difficult to predict because it didn't strike me as a track where there'd be a lot of mayhem. It's not a street course. It is hard to pass, so there isn't a lot of side-by-side action. So, it'll be interesting. It's the type of race that could go fully green. It could, but these days in IndyCar, you just can't predict that, because I would have said that at Road America, which it did. I mean, ultimately, once there was those 2 or 3 yellows at the beginning, spread out, that was it. It went green.
Laguna, quite a physical place too. Very physical track.
Yes, Laguna is very physical, although it will be cooler, and that makes a big difference. The temperature in those cars get pretty hot. So a nicer temperature. I think last year also that made it difficult was the fact that it was freshly repaved, and online was incredibly grippy, and if you stepped an inch out, the dust and the fact that the track was so smooth, so that the sand couldn't fall down into the cracks and so on like it did before it was repaved. It was like ice. You would go off. Like, the amount of red flags in practice added up to more than almost the red flags for the whole season. So it sometimes I think the track weathering in a bit, it might be better in that respect too. So maybe not as much mayhem.
I hope so. I mean, I hope. Yeah. I thought it was wild to watch last year. Definitely hope a little bit less mayhem. But before we let you go, I want to go back to the month of May a little bit. Obviously, the race did not turn out the way you guys wanted it, but a very dominant showing from Penske. Locked out the front row. When it came to the race, though, what do you think was, because I asked Scott about it too. Scott didn't win. I was like, hey, just looking back on it, what did you think of that race? I know you guys were struggling with the car. Was that right out the gate that you guys were struggling, or kind of tell us a little bit about how it ended up being what it was for you guys?
So for me, I banked on running at the front all day. So I spent a lot of time in practice just running behind 2 and 3 cars.
Right.
And my car was good in that position. So for the first stint, I just sat behind Scott. No problem, saving fuel, just sitting right there. Car was good. As soon as I went back, like 5 cars, I just had no front. Like, I mean, I was missing a ton of front, just kept washing out and just losing positions. So, you know, it was, on me for assuming that, you know, I was going to be able to run at the front all day, and that just wasn't the case. And then it just was one of those days that didn't flow for me either. Even on restarts, usually I could get good restarts and run the outside. Like, just the restarts were way more aggressive than normal. And everyone was good, like on restarts. Like, normally people are a bit more conservative, but it was so difficult, and I just didn't have a good run at any point. It didn't go green at any point because the sort of pissed off sequences would have helped me too, because I was saving a lot of fuel to go longer, and it just never played out. And then I made a bad decision to go on the outside. It was just a bad decision, you know. You should know when your day isn't going well. You shouldn't try push the envelope. But we had fast cars, but as you know, it all equals out in the race. Always does. You can have a mile an hour or more on people in qualifying, but in the race it's very equal. It's very equal.
Yeah, because I was definitely surprised to see, like, visually your car looked like it was a battle over anyone else's to drive. Like, it was, because I was following you at one point, and you know, it was definitely wild to see, like, oh wow, that's definitely a challenge. So I was just curious to see what, you know, how you guys got there, or what was going on, because I haven't watched the race back yet. But I mean, that's what makes Indy so hard, right? It has to be the perfect day. You got to be the best. Like, everything has to go right. You got to make the perfect decisions, and it's a hard day.
Yes, it is. It's like walking a tightrope, that place, honestly. And, Newgarden made that win happen for him. When you watch his restart, he took some risk, but was very aggressive, very assertive, and he made it happen. Pato had to wait one more straight. That's a tough one. One more straight, and he's probably winning it. But that's a decision he had to make, you know, like, it was close. You know, had it been green for a long time, his decision may have been right, because the fact that there'd been so many restarts, you could actually run the outside.
Yes.
So it was cleaner than any other race I've ever done. The outsides were. So, Joseph would have had to take a risk in some marbles to make that pass, where there was no marbles. Actually grippier on the outside of 3. I ran the outside quite a bit there, and there was actually more grip. So, that was just, honestly, Newgarden made that happen. Absolutely his race. That's that place. You know, he fought for 12 years to win it, and he's gone back to back.
It's a tough one. I definitely know. That's it. But it was, I'm happy for him for sure. He definitely drove the wheels off it. It was a good race. Everyone keeps telling me it was one of the best races to watch. So I'm happy that our fans appreciated it as well.
Yeah.
I was very, very happy about that.
Yeah.
So, hey man, I want to, Chase, do you have one more for Will Power before we let him go?
I do. Yeah. So I wanted to do, before we let you go, Laguna Seca coming up, Will, I want to do a little Will Power trip advisor. What are 2 things that people going to Laguna Seca should do away from the racetrack that Will Power would do?
Oh, I would say one would be, I went down. I don't actually know where it was. I went into the water. It was extremely cold, so I like a bit of cold immersion. And I saw a bunch of like 70-year-olds and, old guys getting in there, and that's some medicine for you right there.
Yeah, little geriatric ocean.
I did it when I won the championship, but I think I spent too long there. I was a bit worried. Got out, I'm like, oh my God, that was brutal. But
that's a natural cold plunge, though.
It was a natural cold plunge. It was really nice. So that's something you could do, and you can play. If you're a golfer, you go and play golf at that. What's it called? I'm not Scott McLaughlin.
I don't even know. Pebble Beach? No, Pebble Beach.
Yeah, is it Pebble Beach? I think it is.
I think so.
Pebble Beach. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll play
cold golf.
Yeah.
What's that?
Rock and roll.
Well, hey man, we appreciate you, dude. I appreciate the fact that you took the time to do this show this week. I know last week we were testing in Milwaukee. You were quickest in Milwaukee. Quick read on the track. Was it a fun track? Good to be back there?
It was extremely low grip, actually.
Yes.
I think they had a very hard tire, which they may come back with a softer one just to make it a bit better. But it was lower grip than I remember. Whether that's the tire or...
Like bumpy as well? I drove the two-seater, and I thought it was bumpier than I remember.
Yeah, those seams have probably opened up a little bit more. Yeah, more bumps, a lot of harsh winters. It's usually a great race there. It usually is. I'm hoping that to be the case. There's probably a few little things they could do, actually. They could probably lightly grind those patches on the inside because they've become more slippery than the outside lane. That would create another lane, so... it's a big part of the championship, these short ovals, big part.
Yeah.
Double headers. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Well, cool, man. Hey, Will, appreciate you. Very excited to see you continue the hunt for another championship. I think it's going to be a pretty wild rest of the season because I don't think we've seen the end of maybe drivers coming in and out of the series. Who knows? I would love to be back in the series as well at some point. Who knows? I'm sure that might happen. But yeah, man, enjoy your couple days before you go out to Laguna Seca, and good luck this weekend.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate Will Power. I love talking to Will Power. Him and Flavor Flav are doing great things in their lives. Feel good about that. Love that that's a personal friendship. Now they're going on vacation together. I love that. What a great group.
Yeah, you love to see it. You love to see it. There's going to be a TV show about them.
I hope so. My gosh, I hope so. All right, so love the fact that we got to talk to Will Power. Let's get to our picks. Now, our producer, Bobby, did a great job producing some graphics, and we went 1 for 6, so don't ever listen to us if you're trying to make a fantasy pick or anything like that, because we clearly suck at understanding what's going on. We're trying to use our brains. Maybe we just need to use a bit of a dice roll.
Yeah, I'm ready for that.
So I'm going to go first here, Chase. I'm gonna give us a 3 drivers in no particular order. Now, again, this is something that you have to remember: no particular order. First driver that I'm going to start with. First driver, Marcus Armstrong. I believe Marcus Armstrong is going to be in the top 3 this weekend. I do believe that. I'm looking through the list as well. I literally have the entry list in front of me. It's definitely not going to be the 20 car. It's definitely not going to be the 41 car, but it is going to be. And sadly, no Theo Pourchaire, no Teddy Chairs anymore. Goodness gracious. But I do believe that it's going to be very hard to beat Ganassi here. So I'm going to give it yet again an Alex Palou in the top 3. I know it's something that I've done a lot. Alex Palou in the top 3. I think that's pretty much a guarantee. And then for me, I would like to say Colton Herta. Again, I'm not gonna stray far from the path. I'm gonna say Colton. I'm gonna say Marcus Armstrong, and I'm gonna say Alex Palou. Those are my top 3. Chase, let's hear it.
All right. So, I just want to first and foremost, I just want to say, maybe listen to me this week. I feel good. I feel confident. It's a big bounce back. Could be a bounce back. I feel good for Scott Dixon. I'm going back with Scott Dixon. I'm going back in the pot. He won this race, even though it was at a different time last year. I'm going back in, so I'm sticking with you in the Ganassi camp for sure. So Dixon's going to be one of those guys that I think will be in the top 3, potentially going back to back. He had such a rough time at Road America. Usually when rough times happen, the following race, big comebacks. So it's a good setup for a major comeback. I'm going to probably go a little weird, a little dog. I'm going to say Lundgaard ends up in the top 3 at this race. That. I feel like, he's been kind of coming around. He's trying to put together some good things. If the strategy can play out right, he finished this race in 6th, I believe, last year. I'm going to say he's going to try to find a way to make a push. Something wild's got to happen, right? So I'm going to go in that. I'm going to go in that direction. And then for my final selection, I'm still riding in hot on the Scotty Mack train. So Scotty Mack, another driver that did well here last year. I think he finds a way to get into that top 3 for Penske. So Scott Dixon, Christian Lundgaard, and Scotty Mack.
I hate that I can only pick 3. Honestly, I hate that I can only pick 3. Maybe we should do a top 5 pick next time. But that's what
top 5.
We got to force ourselves. So
we'll do a sheet.
So there you have it. A couple top 3 predictions. So let's get into unless there's any other news, which I don't really think there is. Honestly, the world might explode in the next 24 hours with the amount of news that's going on. Who knows? But yeah. Anyway, let's get to the Ricky Treadway random Indy 500 driver of the week.
The greatest event of its kind that's ever been run on.
Let's meet the drivers. We'll make up the field.
All right. With that, we go to the very, very competitive 1962 Indianapolis 500. The 1962 Indianapolis 500 was won by Roger Ward. Roger Ward, the winner of the 1962 Indy 500. But we went with a top 5 finisher. Don Davis. Don Davis is new for us on the every week is a new week, a new driver. Don Davis is this week's random Indy 500 driver of the week. Donald Lee Davis was an American race car driver, Tucson, Arizona man. Sadly, died in Dayton, Ohio as a result of injuries suffered in a sprint car race at New Bremen Speedway. Drove in the USAC Championship Series 1960 to 1962. 15 starts, only 2 Indy 500s. But in his 2 Indy 500s, he had the best finish of 4th. Which is pretty impressive, honestly. 4th in Indianapolis, that's great. And then, finished in the top 10 8 times in USAC. Best finishes of 3rd at Trenton and 4th at Indianapolis, both in 1962. Davis served in the Korean War as well. Korean War guy. There you go.
Yeah.
That's our guy.
I feel like
Don Davis. We learned a lot about
down Don.
Yep, so that's our random Indy 500 driver of the week this week, Donnie Davis. So anyway, I'm going to go do an ARCA seat fit. I'm going to go get in the car. I was in another seat yesterday and was at another race shop today that I'll tell you about later, which is going to be really, really cool. We got an exciting month of July.
You should film one of your fittings.
Huh?
You should film one of your seat fittings. You show the world.
I actually am doing that. I am doing a little bit. I'm doing some YouTube short activities. So we're going to film a little bit of this. We could try to get some YouTube shorts going. But yeah, for right now, my advice to everyone is, keep your phones refreshing because boy, with the amount of news that's going on, that's wild, pretty crazy. Just everything is wild. So anyway, continue to follow the IndyCar series. We got a lot going on. Please watch the IndyCar series. I think there's a great race to be seen this weekend. I think there's great racing to be seen all summer long. Until next week, we will definitely be talking next week to the winner of the race in Laguna Seca. I will be in California still next week, so I'll be doing a remote show once again. But yeah, we appreciate you guys for listening here on Speed Street. Thank you.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Hey everyone, Connor Daly here. Please leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it, and also subscribe to the channel as well. That would be very helpful. Be a friend, tell a friend. Thank you so much for the support, and we'll see you on the next episode of Speed Street.